Has your business been affected by COVID-19? The Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center is available to assist entrepreneurs and small businesses in the U.S. Virgin Islands. The VI SBDC is sustained by the University of the Virgin Islands and the U.S. Small Business Administration and collaborates with local agencies to support the small business community. The VI SBDC is nationally accredited and provides free consulting, business education training, and technical assistance. Attend workshops with subject matter experts from both the public and private sector. From idea generation to exit strategies, the staff at the VI SBDC is ready to assist you. Now is the time to contact them if you need assistance with the Federal Paycheck Protection Program, as this funding opportunity is scheduled to end May 31st, 2021. So don't wait. Call or email them to find out how they can help your business grow and succeed.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Webinar Tuesdays. Webinar Tuesday is hosted by the VI Small Business Development Center in collaboration with the SBA. My name is Greg Kopach. I'm a business counselor with the Small Business Development Center here in St. Croix, and I will be facilitating the session today. Wayne Huddleston, our senior area manager with the SBA, will be actually presenting the topic Paycheck Protection Program Loan Updates. Wayne is also a U.S. Army veteran and has an affiliation with the Small Business Development Center in that he previously was a past state director for the SBDC. For today's session, as we have questions, please put them in the chat and they will be answered at the end of the presentation. And I now present to you Wayne Huddleston, Small Business Administration.
All right, thank you, Greg. I appreciate that introduction. I am going to share my screen. Okay. Everybody should be seeing the page, the SBA webpage. Assuming that's correct, I'll continue forward, but if something's not right, just let me know. Thank you for the introduction. Again, my name is Wayne Huddleston. I'm the Senior Area Manager for SBA here in the Virgin Islands. With me today, I'm happy to share that I have a colleague back with our team. Lisa Chamley-Qui is also online. She is here to help us. She's a part of SBA. She's on St. Thomas. She will be helping with the presentation, answering any questions you have. But she is also available as a member of our team here in the Virgin Islands for SBA. What I'm going to do today is take you through the high points of the programs that we have at SBA to help businesses address the impacts of COVID-19. Today, I'm going to focus primarily on 3 different programs, but the majority of my attention is going to be spent on the Paycheck Protection Program, otherwise known as PPP, because that program is nearing an end, and I do not anticipate that that's going to be renewed. It's a program that has been renewed by Congress a couple times, but I do not believe there's an appetite for renewing that again. So when that program ends, that will be it. So I'm going to begin by talking about the PPP program. I'm taking you through our website because I want to show how easy it is to gather information on this program, have your questions answered outside of a presentation like this, and for some of these programs, how to apply directly just by simply visiting sba.gov. So backing up for just a moment, if you simply type sba.gov into a web browser, the first page you're shown is this. As you can see on our front page, we have a lot of different programs that we do. However, we are prioritizing our COVID-19 relief options right now. So that's the first thing you see when you hit our website. All you have to do is click it to learn more. And you'll be taken to this page, which outlines the 5 major programs. I'm going to talk about all these briefly, but I'm going to spend most time, as I said, on Paycheck Protection, EIDL, Restaurant Revitalization. I'll mention these. but I also want to leave time at the end for any questions that you may have out there. But starting with Paycheck Protection, if you just click it, you'll get more information. You'll get an overview of what the Paycheck Protection Program is, what the definition is of first draw and a second draw PPP loan. I'd be surprised if there's anyone out there who has not heard of PPP yet, but just in case, an overview of it, the PPP program is intended to provide payroll to employers so they can continue paying their employees for a certain period of time to help mitigate the impacts of the disaster and the closures that it has caused, and keep employees on the payroll and as a member of your team as a business. So a first draw PPP loan is just what it implies. It's the first loan you've ever received from a PPP loan. PPP loans are loans. They are loans that you receive through a lender, not through SBA. However, the big feature of the PPP loan is that they are forgivable. The process is very straightforward. You approach a SBA lender here in the Virgin Islands. We have 5 SBA lenders. Right now, if you have not received any PPP loan in the past, or you were trying to initiate a first draw PPP loan application or a second draw, you can only approach 3 lenders right now because the funding for PPP has been exhausted in the general fund across the country. There was a reserve amount that was dedicated by Congress to be utilized by what we call CDFIs, MDIs, CDCs, and microlenders. Essentially, these are especially designated lending institutions that the administration and Congress believes helps provide greater access for people in communities that are underserved. Here in the Virgin Islands, there are 3 lenders that are considered MDIs that are still eligible to provide PPP loans. Those are Oriental, Banco Popular or Popular, and First Bank. Those are the only 3 lenders that can process PPP applications at this time. If you've already had an application in place with Bank of St. Croix or Merchants Bank or one of the other outside lenders and you have not received a response, as long as that application was already submitted to SBA, that's still in the queue. You should receive a response shortly, or if it's on hold, it's still in the queue. However, new applications can only be done through Popular, First Bank, or Oriental. The details of the program are this. It is a loan. Ideally, you should have this forgiven. This is intended to be dedicated to payroll costs. So once you are apply for a loan, you submit your documentation to the lender. They will review based on the criteria of the loan and the PPP guidelines. They will arrive at an amount that you could be qualified for. They submit that to SBA. Once SBA approves it, that amount of funds is distributed into your bank account. To put it simply, those funds are equal to 2.5 months of your payroll costs in the past, or of your revenue in the past. So you will provide your 2019 tax form that shows the revenue that you had, and then that will be multiplied or reduced, divided by 12, then multiplied times 2.5 to give you that amount. Once that amount is approved and in your account, you have anywhere between 8 and 24 weeks to spend those funds. The minimum time you must be in your covered period to spend those funds is 8 weeks, but anytime between then you have those times to spend those funds. We highly encourage you to spend 100% of your PPP loan on your payroll. If for some reason you are unable to spend all of it on your payroll and you still have funds left over, you can spend up to 40% of those funds on other costs such as rent, your mortgage, your utility costs, or worker protection costs associated with COVID-19, such as gloves, masks, or the materials that you had to spend because of COVID-19 to get back up into business. However, again, if you can spend it all on payroll, we suggest you do that because that makes it easier in the forgiveness process. Once you have expended all those funds within your covered period, you go back to your bank. Again, you do not go through SBA. You fill out their forms for forgiveness. You will submit documentation to show how you spent those funds accordingly. And then they will review those, make a decision, and send those to SBA for a decision on. You will wait on that decision for a while from SBA and from the bank, but you do not have to make any payments during that time. Once you receive that decision that the loan is fully forgiven, then that's it. Then we inform the bank, we pay back the bank, and that's it. You don't have to worry about anything. However, if for some reason you either did not apply for forgiveness or you did not qualify for a forgiveness of the full amount, the lender will inform you that this PPP loan remains a loan, and it will have an interest rate of 1%, a maturity of anywhere between 2 and 5 years. The vast majority are at 5 years, but if you got a very early loan, it was 2 years. However, you can increase that to 5 years with your lender if you wish. As I mentioned, loan payments are deferred. They are deferred for 10 months after the covered period, but they will not be, you will not have to start those until SBA has made a decision on those. No collateral purchase guarantees are required, and they should not charge any fees for those. Qualifying for these is relatively easy. Sole proprietors, independent contractors, self-employed persons, any business that meets our size standards. So as long as you're not a very large business here in Virgin Islands, you would qualify. This also applies for nonprofits, 501c3, 501c19, and other organizations. If you have any question about whether you qualify to apply for such a loan, you can visit our site and get the full information on there. So information on how and when to apply, again, is through your lender. If you do not already have an existing banking relationship with Popular, First Bank, or Oriental, then you can just contact any one of those three. However, if you have an existing banking relationship with one of those, I suggest you work with that lender to process your application. There has been some word that I have received that some of the local lenders, Popular, First Bank, or Oriental, will no longer process PPP loans for you if you're trying to get one processed. If you have that situation, please notify me. I am getting conflicting information on whether that is actually true or not. So if you have a loan officer tell you that they are no longer accepting applications for PPP loans, we need to know that information quickly so that we can confirm that with that lender and not advise you to go to that lender for a PPP loan, advise you to other sources you can go to. However, right now, it's my understanding, and the heads of the banks in Puerto Rico are confirming that all three of the lenders are providing loans. So if you hear something to the contrary, please let us know so that we can follow up that on either confirm that for you or get you another source of information so you can submit your loan. I'm not going to go through all the supplemental materials here, but I bring you to the website because it is an excellent source for information on PPP loans. This FAQ document answers many questions regarding PPP loans. There's a simple document on how to calculate your first draw amount, things that talk about myths and facts. The specific rules are on here, and what we call the interim final rule is here as well. That goes into great detail on the rules and guidelines that Congress passed regarding these. So I'm going to go through this other stuff quickly. There's information on applying for loan increase if there was some sort of issue with that with your lender. And you can have information in other languages if you need it. Second draw PPP loan is just what it says. That means you've already received a PPP loan either last year or very early this year. You've gone through your covered period. You've expended the funds or shown that you will expend those funds in the manner that they were intended. And then you could apply for a second draw PPP loan. There are some minor differences in that. One difference that's the same is that it's still the same deadline, May 31st, that program ends. And this is for both first draw and second draw PPP loans. That May 31st deadline is SBA's deadline for lenders to submit that information to us. Many lenders will say we will close our window prior to that May 31st deadline. It may be a few days before, it may be tomorrow. You don't know. So if there is any thought that you have you may wish to apply for a PPP loan and you haven't done so already, you certainly should reach out to one of the participating lenders and start your application as soon as possible, because really it's up to them to participate, and at any moment they can stop their participation. But as of right now, I'm hearing from their headquarters that they're all three open in their portal, and you can apply with them directly. But don't expect that you can wait till May 30th or May 31st and apply. I'm confident that all of them will shut down at some point in the days prior to that deadline. There are some differences in a second draw PPP loan from a first draw. You must have no more than 300 employees. You must show that you previously received a first draw and will use the full amount for the authorized purposes. And then a key difference here is that you must demonstrate at least a 25% reduction in gross receipts between comparable quarters of 2019 and 2020. They can't be different quarters. They must be the same. Doesn't matter what quarter you pick, but it must be the same quarter. So it can be the first quarter of 2019 and the first quarter of 2020, or the third. They just have to be the same one. If you can show that there has been a reduction in gross receipts in comparable quarters, then you can qualify for a PPP loan. The purpose for this is that we want to make sure these loans go directly to those that are most negatively impacted by the virus. There are some businesses that thrived during the virus, or business picked up because of the virus, and these loans are not intended for them. So you must show at least a 25% reduction. Most everything else in this program is very similar. You will apply through your lender. You will apply through their portal, or however they intake applications. They will make the decision on your PPP loan. They will submit that to SBA for final approval, and they will provide those funds directly to you. Once you apply for forgiveness, you again will apply through your lender. The rest of this information is the same, so I'm going to touch on PPP loan forgiveness. Here is more information on your forgiveness terms, the applications, how to apply. As I mentioned before, you should spend 100% of these funds on payroll if at all possible. If for some reason you can't, you can spend 40% of those funds on other purposes, but at least 60% must be spent on payroll if you intend to apply for full forgiveness of the program. Again, you must apply through a lender. Compensation levels are maintained. Loan proceeds spent on payroll costs, and at least 60% of proceeds are spent on payroll costs. These are all information that you must provide to your lender. You must apply after your covered period ends, or you've shown at least that you can spend those funds. So to put it simply, if you are applying for a first draw loan, you do not have any more time to apply for a second draw loan. You can't apply for one and then turn around and apply for the other. The quickest time that you could turn around and apply for a second draw loan would be 8 weeks from the time that you received your funds for a first draw loan. Though it's the shortest covered period there is. Then you're still going to have to prove to your lender that you've either spent the funds in the appropriate manner, or you can show documentation that shows you will over this time. You submit all your documentation to your lender. They'll provide you a list. You want to stay communicating with them throughout the process, not SBA. If you need more information on how the forgiveness is calculated, what the application looks like, the instructions look like from SBA, they are all posted on our site. They're all posted in different languages as well. Just go there, get information. So that is the primary information I wanted to give regarding PPP. Before I move on to other things, I want to emphasize 2 takeaways. One, this program is ending. This is really the last few remaining days that anyone has to take advantage of this program. This is an incredible program here. It's a forgivable loan. This will provide funds to you as a business owner, or you as a sole proprietor or contractor, to basically just get through the negative effects of the pandemic. This is to replace payroll costs. If you don't take advantage of this program now, I do not anticipate it will be available again. And it will end in the days preceding May 31st. I cannot tell you the exact deadline, but I would say if you don't get it done within 10 days, then you have missed this opportunity. So please do not waste any more time on this. If you haven't applied, apply through one of the 3 lenders who are continuing to operate those now. And if you are getting information that those lenders will no longer receive your application, not that it's been denied, that's the difference. Being denied is different, but if it's not being even accepted, then please let us know. We'll provide our information at the end, and we can at least confirm that for you. There are other programs for helping businesses through the effects of the pandemic, and I want to touch upon those briefly as well. One of our major one is called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Many of you may be familiar with this loan. For years in the past, we've used this loan vehicle for Maria, for Irma, for Maryland, for other hurricanes and other natural disasters that have hit the Virgin Islands. This is a loan. It is not forgivable. It will remain a loan. However, the terms of these loans are very favorable. They are 30-year terms. You can receive a loan of up to $500,000, depending on the financial statements that you submit to SBA to show your previous revenue. Once you are approved through a loan, it's 3.75% for businesses, 2.75% for nonprofits over a term of 30 years. You have a deferred period for 24 months for loans that were received in 2020. For 2021, the loan deferral period is 18 months. So I highly recommend to people that if you believe you could use the funds from an economic injury disaster loan, you should go ahead and apply, receive that approval. When you receive those funds, place them in a separate account. Do not commingle them with other operational funds for your business. Set that in a separate account. If you need those funds, you may draw down from those funds, and as long as they're used for the appropriate purposes, you're fine. Any purposes, I'll go through that briefly here. However, if you don't need those funds, you can just return those back to SBA anytime you wish. There is no penalty for prepayment of those funds. You simply would have to pay the accrued interest that was accrued during the time that you held those funds. For most business owners, that is well worth, that price is well worth it, considering that it provides you a cushion should the pandemic effects worsen or something else happen. It's very nice to have that cushion of funds available to help out so you can keep businesses operating. You don't want to wait till the end. You apply directly through SBA. You do not go through a lender on these. You simply go to our website at sba.gov, go to the link I showed you. You click apply here and you can start that process. I'll click it just to show you what it looks like. This is for loan requests, it tells you, and then you start the process here. You just start entering in your application. Applicant is a business with not more than 500 employees or whatever pertains to you. Go through this checklist and hit continue. It's a very short process. Right here over on this page, once I hit continue, I'm on this part, and then you just got 3 more parts. Summary, additional information, business owners information. It's a very simple and quick process. Many business owners, especially sole proprietorships, can have this all complete within 20 minutes. And then that will be sent to SBA. You get a decision fairly quickly. The time on that varies, but I think they're operating within a 10 to 21 day window right now of approving EIDL loan applications. You can only receive one. Unlike the PPP loan, you cannot receive a second draw of an EIDL loan. However, for early applicants who received an economic injury disaster loan when the cap was at $150,000, if those applicants would otherwise had received more funds had that cap not been in place, they are now eligible for an increase up to $500,000, depending on what they would normally be approved for. Those applicants all received notifications from SBA, so that should not be a mystery to those applicants who are eligible for that, and they can apply for an increase in those loans. But that is, again, done directly through SBA. You have until December 31st of this year to apply. Let's see where I'm not sure where the deadline is. I'm sure I may have passed it. But you have December 31st of this year to apply. Just apply directly through our website. Again, I wouldn't wait till the end. Of course, it's only available as long as SBA has funds for these. We have plenty of funds appropriated for economic injury disaster loan right now. But early on in the pandemic, we did run out of funds, and that had to be refilled by Congress, reauthorized by Congress to add more funds to that. I don't see that as a worry anytime soon, but you never know what can happen. So if there's really no reason to wait till the very last part of the deadline at the end of the year, if you would like to be considered for an economic injury disaster loan, go ahead and apply. If you have any questions regarding your loan, there should be on here a contact information. Let me click it. It's not here, but I'm going to give you a number. I know we went through this last time. Loan eligibility increases. There is a number to call. It's 1-800-659-2955. And if, at least I'm not finding that in the information right here. If you could put that in the chat, 1-800-659-2955. That's to get any questions answered regarding economic injury disaster loan or your application. That is a number for our disaster customer service center. They can pull up your application by your number or by your name. Us here in the field office, we cannot pull up any information regarding your economic injury disaster loan. So if you have a question regarding documents that you need to submit, or how long it's going to take for an application approval or a request for an increase, you should contact that number. We just do not have the ability to adjust that for you. But really, I also suggest that you respond clearly to requests for information in the email. If for some reason your economic injury disaster loan is not being approved because of missing documentation or for some other reason, you will receive an email from SBA. The easiest thing to do is read that email carefully and respond to the specific requests that are made in that email. If you do not respond, then your application is kicked back and put in kind of a hold status until you turn in that information, and nothing's going to happen on your application. So submit information to that email. If you have questions about it, call the 1-800 number, and that will help answer anything that you have regarding these. There is some more information on what we call targeted idle advance. I'm just going to quickly touch upon these, because if you are qualifying for these, then you will receive an email from SBA. Early on in the economic injury disaster program, Congress allocated a certain amount of funds for an advance because the speed was necessary to get funds into the hands of businesses that were quickly shutting down. So they wanted to provide an advance on those funds while SBA considered the application. Those funds were quickly exhausted, and it took months before those funds were reauthorized again by Congress. So Congress did decide that anyone who would have received a targeted idle advance with their application can be eligible to receive that now. However, they are targeting those businesses specifically. If you are eligible for what we call a targeted idle advance, you should receive an email from SBA to apply. Just because you receive the email to apply does not necessarily mean that you are approved. It just means you're eligible to apply. Once you apply, if you're approved, then those funds are put directly into your account. Highly encourage you to make sure that the information you provide in your application in all these programs, but especially even so in targeted idle advance, that it is accurate, that your bank account information is accurate, and you provide all the information that's required fully for your application to be reviewed. Okay, so those are two big ones I want to talk about. I'm also going to talk about these other ones, but they are a little bit different. But here's one that opened 2 weeks ago called the Restaurant Revitalization Program. You may have seen a lot of this in the news. This was approved in the American Rescue Act that was approved, I believe, in March. 2 weeks ago, this program was rolled out and was available to all restaurant owners across the country who meet the basic eligibility standards. You apply, much like with the economic injury disaster loan, you apply directly through our portal. You can just click here and this is where you apply. And to put it simply, this is intended for restaurant owners, but also food trucks and other businesses in the food industry to help them continue operations, as they are oftentimes one of the most hardest hit businesses, especially restaurants that require people to come in person, that were unable to either open at all or have at least capacity in their location because of distancing standards from CDC that they had to enact. This program is intended to help those businesses recoup those losses. This is a, we're calling it a fund. It sort of operates similar to PPP in that you receive those funds up front, but you must show at the end that you have used those funds for the purpose it was intended. There are a lot of details of this program. Again, it's only for restaurant owners. What I suggest is if you have not applied for this program or for some reason you did not hear about it, to visit our site. Almost all business owners that have a food service or a food truck or a restaurant should have received information on this. I highly encourage you to read this guide. It's not very long. It's about 22 pages. It provides an overview of the program. It answers many of the simple questions regarding this program on who's eligible, how to apply, what to do. There's also a sample application. For most people, if you have a point of sale service, many point of sale services are offering applications through their portals. You can apply directly through your point of sale system. You do not, it is not required that you have a point of sale system to apply. You can apply directly through SBA through our online portal. And then for some reason, if you cannot apply online, you can mail in your applications and download them here from our site. However, I don't suggest that anyone try to do that. If you do not have internet access or you do not have access to a computer, please contact your SBDC. Please ask if they can assist you with this application so that you can submit online. That is the much more expedient way of applying for these funds. Well, some of the things I will mention here. So again, I mentioned this applies to basically any entity that's in the food service industry. Here is a list here: restaurants, food stands, food trucks, food carts, caterers, bars, bakeries. There are some guidelines that you must comply with if you are a bakery or a brewery or distillery or others that ship out your product. At least 33% of your gross receipts must be of sales to the public. So for instance, to give an example, if you are a brewery and you are pushing out a lot of product to grocery stores and other areas, if the amount of receipts that you receive from that product to your other distributors like grocery stores or events or whoever it may be, if that is more than 60%, then you would not qualify. At least 33% of your on-site sales must be considered to the public. So these are people who are end consumers of your product who are coming there to buy that product. A frequent question is, do deliveries count? And yes, deliveries can count as long as those deliveries are coming from your site to the end consumer. It can't be a delivery to a grocery store who then resells that product to end consumers. You must be providing it to end consumer. So again, more information on this is included on this site and in the guide that I mentioned earlier. You apply through your point of sale service, apply through SBA, and if you need help, you can reach out to the SBDC and they can provide assistance. One aspect I'm going to share here is that if you have not applied already, it is very difficult to ensure that you receive funds. So there were $28 billion allocated by Congress to this fund. There have been applications already in our queue and in our system for well over $65 billion worth. So those applications are in our queue. Congress, when they passed this legislation, did set aside a 3-week period where applicants who are women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, or businesses that are socially and economically disadvantaged would be the only ones that would be considered during that 3-week period. We have enough applications from those groups to exhaust the entire amount of funds that have been allocated by Congress. The only portion of funds that are now available is a small amount that was set aside for eligible businesses that have annual gross receipts of $50,000 or less. So if you are a food service business, whether or not you fall into one of the categories of women-owned, veteran-owned, or social and economically disadvantaged owned, you should still apply for this program, as applications from those will still be put into queue. However, I expect at some point there will need to be an reallocation of funds or an additional authorization of funds from Congress to serve all the applicants that are out there. So you should not delay. If you haven't already, apply now, get your application in the queue. I know numerous businesses within the Virgin Islands have already received their funds for this that applied early. For some reason you did not apply, you should go ahead and start that program so you can at least be in the queue for when these programs, for when Congress takes up the issue of whether to reauthorize additional funds for this program. And finally, if you need more information, call this hotline here. If you have any trouble with your application, I have tested this number several times. Within 2 minutes, I'm speaking to a live person who is knowledgeable on the program, very well trained, and can answer any questions you have regarding this program. 844-279-8898. That's the number to call to help with you, to get help with your application or get any questions answered regarding the restaurant revitalization program. Okay, let's see. So finally, I'd like to just touch upon these other two very briefly because I want to leave time to answer any questions. The other two major programs we have for COVID relief are the Shuttered Venues Grant. This is a grant program. You would apply again directly here. You can just visit our site. You click apply here and you can start that program. It is specifically a grant program. So there are different guidelines regarding this. Whereas with these other programs, I can provide, not I, but SBA can provide a little bit more assistance with your application on how to apply. We cannot necessarily do that to comply with federal guidelines on grants. We cannot do that, but you can apply for it through here, start the program. This is a grant directly intended for shuttered venue operators. That includes live venue operators, theater producers, museum operators, live performing arts organizations, motion picture theater operators, including owners of movie theaters and talent representatives. There are not a ton of those here in the Virgin Islands, but there are some. If you believe you qualify for this program, I highly encourage you to visit our site. Just go to sba.gov. You can get the applicant user guide, walk through the program, get an understanding of whether you qualify and how to apply, and then just apply through this site and this link right here, and you can get that program started for you. The other program I just want to touch upon very briefly is the debt relief program. This is a program where SBA is making payments on behalf of borrowers who received an SBA guaranteed loan. This could be an SBA, what we call 7A loan, a 504 loan, a micro loan. If you are eligible for this program, there is nothing you need to do. SBA has reached out to the lenders who are servicing the loans for these borrowers and informed them of the debt relief that SBA is providing. Essentially, SBA is making a certain number of payments depending on the loan for those borrowers. If you qualified, there was nothing you need to do. Your lender should have contacted you and told you that some of the payments on these loans are going to be covered by SBA and provided you details on that. If for some reason you believe you did qualify for debt relief and you did not receive it from your lender, you should contact your lender for your SBA loan to get a clarity on whether or not your business qualified for that debt relief and whether or not it appropriately received it. I have not heard of any instance of any SBA guaranteed loan recipient here in the Virgin Islands who qualified for that debt relief and did not receive it from a lender. So I believe the program is working well. However, if you have any questions, please reach out to your lender and they should be able to answer that for you. So that is a quick overview of our programs. Again, I didn't want to provide a PowerPoint of our programs. I want to take you directly through our website because that is the best way to get information, apply for many of these programs directly, and get your questions answered. But now we have about 15-20 minutes now to answer any questions you have. I have not looked at the chat. I believe Lisa may have been looking through there. But you can either type your questions into chat. And I think maybe you can unmute yourself. I cannot recall if that's how, if this is set up on Zoom to allow that eligibility. But you should be able to ask any questions either verbally or by unmute or putting it into chat, and we'd be happy to answer. And it can be on any of these programs we covered or anything regarding SBA.
Wayne, this is Lisa. There are no questions in the chat. However, I did put our email addresses for members of the participants to be able to access us. There is also the disaster customer service number if you have any questions on your idle loan, and make sure that you have your application ID handy for that call. And then there is the Restaurant Revitalization Fund helpline number. So, but other than that, no other questions at this point. We do encourage the questions.
Okay, well, if there are no other questions, we thank you all for attending today. And also want to invite you to attend next week as well. Two small admin announcements. This afternoon, we have a very interesting webinar. It is on financing your export. Just want to make you aware of that. And then tomorrow afternoon, we are going to do a webinar on understanding financial statements. Okay, please register on our webpage for those webinars at visbdc.org or on our Facebook page at visbdc. And so we thank you. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.